All right, welcome back to part 3 of our course assessment workshop presented by Cumberland University's University Assessment Committee. If you're watching this video, you're very likely an adjunct or a part-time or a full-time faculty member who wants to work on writing more effective course outcomes. If you haven't checked out the other 2 videos, in part 1 of the video, we really took a look at why we do course assessment. We use that analogy of weigh the pig, feed the pig, and weigh the pig again. So demonstrating what did we do over the course of the semester that actually lets us know where a student came in, what did we do, and did it provide effective learning outcomes. In part 2 of the video, essentially what we were able to do is start to look at the process of writing good quality outcomes, writing good targets, how to be more effective in being clear using our SMART principle. And then as well, we looked at some examples of some outcomes and how we could make those a little bit more effective. We also looked at some best practices for developing methods. We looked at, in part 2 of the video, some different targets that we could use outside of just percentages on exams. We looked at things that you could do with skills checkoffs or pre-post tests or demonstrating mastery of the writing process using an agreed upon rubric. So what we're going to do now in part 3 is we're going to look at actually reporting the data. What are some things that we want to focus on when we interpret our results? And then finally, we're going to wrap up this part of the video with discussing data interpretation and completing that loop. So when we're reporting the data, first of all, we want to be clear and direct. We want to be concise, but we want to provide enough information, particularly quantifiable information. And that doesn't mean that there isn't room for qualitative analysis, but we do want to report some of that quantitative analysis. And so a couple things that we want to keep in mind here is that we want to report actual numbers when we're presenting that data. So for example, if we just said that 50% of students achieve at a target level of 75% based on the common rubric, well, 50% of what? 50% of 100 students yields quite a bit more information than just 6 students, very potentially. It's not that 3 out of 6 students is bad. It's not that 50 out of 100 students is bad. It's just that maybe 3 out of 6 students lets us know that when we get to that interpretation process, maybe we need to wait a few more semesters. Maybe we need additional sections of the class. We need data from those sections in order to make any generalizations or strong recommendations for how to move this learning outcome forward. I would say as well, beyond sharing total numbers in a course, for example, we might want to, and I can pull up an example here, what we might want to do with a course is not only include the numbers. Once we've had the opportunity to look at our results, interpret our results, and present our results in the CADS report, it's time to move on to the action plan or completing the loop. It's a very common term in course and program assessment at the university level, completing the loop. And essentially what we need to be able to do here is particularly address those targets that aren't met. We'll talk here in a moment about targets that are met, but what we want to be able to do is provide a plan to improve student learning for all of those targets that we didn't meet in this particular course. So it's very possible that we need to add or modify a particular assignment. Maybe the faculty needs to alter the way that the content is delivered. Maybe additional videos or online materials need to be presented in kind of a more flipped classroom approach so students have more opportunities to interact with the content. Maybe we need to change textbooks. Maybe a different instructor needs to come into the course. Maybe the target level was too high. Maybe it was too low. So here what we're doing is we're going back to our SMART principle, and we're really identifying parts of the learning outcome that need to be addressed in maybe a little bit different way. So in this sense, when we take a look at our action plans for completing the loop, as mentioned, we want to find focus on targets that we didn't meet, but we simply don't want to say for those targets that were met that no action plan, no action is needed at the present time. Most certainly, we need to address that. Maybe we need to increase the benchmark. Maybe we need to dive a little bit deeper into a deeper level of understanding with the content. A good way to sort of conceptualize that, in my opinion, I like using Bloom's taxonomy. So according to Bloom's taxonomy, and I can kind of pull this up for us to take a look at. And this is just a reference, a resource that was available through Vanderbilt University's Center for Teaching. So when we look at Bloom's taxonomy, for example, maybe at a lower level of the taxonomy, we want students to just remember or understand. So maybe for our benchmark or our target for our measurement, we're simply asking students to define on a particular exam or to recite something. Whereas very potentially what we want to be able to do if students are achieving that benchmark is we want to be able to increase the rigor. We want them to understand at a deeper level of analysis. So maybe if we're analyzing, we want them to be able to, I know that's difficult to see, but maybe at that analysis level, we want them to compare and contrast on an essay for a particular exam. We want them to be able to compare and contrast two concepts with one another. Or we want them to go to a deeper level of understanding with the content. And so we want them to create some sort of a course project where they need to be able to develop and construct. They want to design something. So when we talk about met targets, maybe what we want to be able to do at that course level is increase the rigor. Find a way to take students to a deeper level of understanding with that student learning outcome. So increase rigor, depth of the assignment. Maybe we need to modify the assignment. Maybe you can create a justification for this is exactly where students need to be. Maybe at this time we don't have enough data. So maybe we need to state in that action plan that at the present time we don't have, that there's not enough data to draw definitive conclusions yet. We're going to wait for 2 to 3 more assessment cycles to be able to draw stronger conclusions and review at that time. Again, if we state that, that's a clear action plan for what's going to happen in 2 cycles from now and how we're going to evaluate at that point. To put a bow on this, here's a few resources for you to check out. The National Institute for Learning Outcomes Assessment is a great website for reading some articles and some hands-on information for writing more effective outcomes. Provided the link for Bloom's taxonomy. There's a lot of places out there that you can find information on Bloom's taxonomy. But in part, what I want to iterate with that is, for me, it provides a conceptual framework for really thinking about courses, thinking about course assessment, how I want to take students to a deeper level of understanding. And then finally, I encourage you to check out Linda Susky's blog. She does an absolutely phenomenal job of talking about course assessment, program assessment, why it's important, how we can do a more effective job with that. So that information is all available to you. If you have questions, a few things, my email address is jgrindstaff@cumberland.edu. Again, that's jgrindstaff@cumberland.edu. I'll put that down in the description of the video if you have questions. But what I really do encourage you to do, because I'd imagine there's a lot of adjuncts that are watching this video, maybe new faculty that are coming to Cumberland, whether that's part-time or full-time. I really encourage you, if you are teaching a class, get with that program head, review the objectives for a particular course, ask questions, find time during a program meeting to sit down, evaluate objectives for a course, identify, okay, how going into the semester, what's the objective? How are we going to measure this objective? What's the target for that objective? Are they written clearly? Are those established where they need to be? Maybe those need to be critiqued or adjusted going into the semester. Point is, as a final concluding thought on course assessment, adjuncts particularly, to you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all the work that you do at Cumberland University. All of us are overworked. All of us have a lot on our plates. What we do not want course assessment to be is something that we think about at the end of the semester. I'd like us to be intentional about how we go about course assessment. In other words, starting out from the beginning of the semester, reviewing that syllabus with your program director, reviewing the course syllabus with other program faculty, teasing out course objectives that aren't written very specific, they aren't measurable, rewriting those in a way where you know going into the semester, okay, for SLO number 4, this is how I'm going to measure it. So that way, when you get to that point in the semester, you can be collecting the data along the way, be plugging the data into the CADS report as the semester goes on, not as a end product of the semester. And then what happens at that point, at the end of the semester, once we get to that point, then it's about completing the loop, developing the action plan. We've already got the data. We've already interpreted the data throughout the semester because we were intentional about it. At that point, like I said, it's about completing the loop, developing the action plan for moving forward, communicating that, working with the program head. If you are an adjunct or a faculty member, delivering this course as a part of multiple sections of a course, work with that lead who's collecting and taking the aggregate data for that course, provide feedback, have input into that process. Finally, thank you very much for participating, for watching this video. This is an ongoing process. I am not perfect with this. Nobody at the university is perfect with this process. By jumping in to the muck of it, we get better with this process. So again, thank you for being part of this. Be intentional with your establishing learning outcomes, establishing measures, trying to find more effective ways to develop your targets and draw that data in. Moving forward, all of this will tie back into, from the course level, it'll make our programs more effective. It'll make our university more effective. And I truly believe at the end of the day, it is going to lead to more effective students who are going to be able to move on and matriculate into professional jobs, and they will be more effective. Employers out there will seek out Cumberland University students who can produce tangible results in the workplace because of what they've learned, what they've acquired here. Best of luck to you, and thank you for watching. Take care.